Austin, let's go over your assignment and then I'll give you your new assignment. And we're looking at your summary of the Pogue carburetor. The first thing I notice is you don't have a running head. You did a great job on putting the MLA heading up here. So let's go over how to insert a running head. You click Insert, page number, top of the page. We're going to put it over to the right. Type your last name, and we want to use the same type. So let's pick Romans in the same font size. So there we have our running head. And then to close our running head, it's usually right over here. I don't see it. Might be under design. Okay, close header and footer. And there it is. So that will appear on every page and the page number will automatically change. I'm going to minimize this so I can see our checklist. It was Pogue, Charles Nelson Pogue, who was clanging in his shop working on an invention of his. And right here you have an appositive. Pogue, Charles Nelson Pogue refer to the same person, so we need a comma. This is what we call an appositive. And so we put appositives inside parentheses. And an appositive you can also take out of the sentence and the sentence still makes sense, so make sure when you use appositives that you can take it out. It was Pogue who was clanging in his shop working on an invention of his. So I could take that out. That Charles Nelson Pogue gives us more information. It's an appositive. He spent day and night writing up the plans and building the carburetor. He plans on building a carburetor will allow a vehicle to go 200 miles per a gallon. And we might just put per 1 gallon there. Let me go ahead and track my changes so you can see the changes. That is a nice dramatic opener. Will he succeed? Question. Yes, he certainly will. I like that. That's very good. You have a dramatic opener. It sets a scene and then it sparks the reader's interest with will he succeed? Yes, he certainly will. Unfortunately, gas companies will not allow this for fear their company will lose major business. Good dramatic opener, good question, good LY word. For many years, the Pogue carburetor has been covered in dust of time and long forgotten. This comma here is unnecessary. Remember, we use a comma to separate complex sentences. This isn't a complex sentence. We use a comma when we have a www.asia that begins a sentence, when we have a clausal opener. This isn't a clausal opener. We use commas for series, and this isn't a series. Those are our basic uses of commas, and then also with dialogue, but this is not dialogue. For many years, the Pogue carburetor had been covered in dust and long forgotten. So let's go ahead and take that comma out. It's not necessary. What you have here is you have really compound verbs, and no commas are needed for compound parts. For many years, the Pogue carburetor has been covered in dust of time. For many years, the Pogue carburetor has been long forgotten. So we could put either long forgotten or covered in the dust of time after our verbs here. So basically we're having this is a compound verb phrase. You have a prepositional phrase after that, and no commas are needed for compound parts. So this is just a compound part. Until recently, the topic of this carburetor had been in almost all car enthusiast conversation. The patent for this carburetor will end this year. You would think when this carburetor was created in the beginning it would have taken off like a train full speed ahead. Nice simile, good job. And dress up when, this is our www.asia. And your www.asia follows your main sentence, you would think. So no comma, good job. This carburetor worked wonderfully. A complex design, mechanically sound. You're working on that 432. These are still supposed to be sentences. It's very difficult to do, but this carburetor worked wonderfully. I'm going to go ahead and say that that's good because it does give us information. This carburetor worked wonderfully, complex design, mechanically sound. We'll talk a little bit more about that in later videos, but good effort on that. This carburetor works by turning gas into a very fine vapor. Surprisingly, many people cannot, and I can't even say this word, but it's a nice verb, this design. They just know it works. Surprisingly, many people cannot elucidate, maybe, this design. They just know it works. Here you've got two sentences joined with a comma, and we call that a comma splice. Next time, just put a semicolon there. Semicolon would work well because these are closely related. This carburetor has withstood many challenges. Challenging test. Good strong adjective, proving that this method of turning gas into vapors really work, which has surpassed with ease. This carburetor has withstood many challenging tests, proving that this method of turning gas into vapor really works, which has surpassed with ease. You've put a comma after this which it should be modifying a noun, and you kind of have it modifying a verb, which has surpassed with ease. Turning gas into vapors. This one, this carburetor has withstood many challenging tests, proving that this method of turning gas into vapors really works and has surpassed with ease. I guess this just doesn't make any sense to me. So let's see if you can reword this to, I don't know, it just doesn't, I'm not sure what you were trying to say. Which has surpassed with ease. Surpassed what with ease? Reword to help with understanding. The president of the leading car agency during 1936 in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada stated, okay, we don't need a comma here. I made a test today of the Pogue carburetor installed on an 8-cylinder coupe. The speedometer showed that the car had ran over 8,000 miles. I drove the car 26.2 miles on 1 pint of gas. The performance was 100% in every way. End of quote. Nice quote. Very good quote. Many people would love to get their hands on this device because of the great gas mileage. Good use of the because and no comma. Very good. We shall see what happens next when the patent runs out. Waiting patiently to find out may not be the case. Overall, very good job using those decorations. And for your assignment for next week, I want you to just make some revisions to this paper. I want you to include a running head. I want you to reword this place, fix those comma errors, and reword this so that I can understand what you're talking about there. The other thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about adding some transitions. And let me open a new document here. And a transition, first we're going to do the clincher technique. And the clincher technique is when, here's our first line, and here's our last line, and then here's the rest of the paragraph. And here we take one or two words from our first sentence and we include it in our in our last sentence. So we're trying to kind of build kind of like a sandwich. So our key words here are bread, and all the words in the paragraph is kind of like the meat of the sandwich. So we're going to repeat. So for a clincher, we repeat, really, let's do 2 to 3 words from the first sentence and put it in the last sentence. And that's called a clincher technique. The ideal is to add consistency to that whole paragraph so that it's all talking about the same concept. So I'm going to flip back to your paper And let's see if we can do that on the first paragraph, and then I'm going to let you do it on the other two paragraphs. It was Pogue, Charles Nelson Pogue, who was clanging in his shop working on an invention of his. Okay, and our last sentence is, unfortunately, gas companies will not allow this for the fear their company will lose major business. And we might have to add something here. It was Pogue, Charles Nelson Pogue, who was clanging a shop working on an invention of his. Soon, the car companies themselves will be clanging away, trying to bring Pogue's invention to the marketplace. Well, if I could spell right. So in here I have Pogue. That was one of mine. And I have Pogue up here. So those match. The other one I used invention. And I used invention. And I used also clanging. And I use clanging. So this is the clincher technique, where you take two or three words from the first sentence, and you end the paragraph using those two or three words in another way. And I don't know if that sentence is right. Soon the car companies themselves will be clanging away trying to bring Pogue's invention to the marketplace. So you'll have to write something that actually makes sense. I'm just guessing or making stuff up, which that's what writing's fun about writing. You just make anything up. But in this case, you're doing research, so you want it to actually be good information. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this first sentence, and you may have to add something to be able to make a clincher for this paragraph, and do the same thing for this. You might have to change your first sentence a little bit, so tweak it a little bit. Those are transitions called clinchers, and they are transitions for the beginning and the end of the paragraph. We're going to learn another transition that goes paragraph to paragraph, but right now we're just going to do the clinchers, which is where you start a paragraph, then you clinch it up with the same words, same two or three words from your first sentence. So for your homework, just take this, add your running head, show me you can put that running head in, and fix those little comma errors, and give me some clinchers. Clinch up those paragraphs. And one of yours, I didn't talk about why that comma didn't go. I think you had put it in front of a prepositional phrase. It was the one that said in. I can't find it, but we don't need commas for prepositional phrases. If you have a subject, noun, and a verb and no clausal, you can't join them with commas. That creates a comma splice. What else did we have in here? Oh, no commas for compound parts. And I think that was about it. It was a really good essay, good start, good draft. Just let's start fine-tuning it a little bit with some of these techniques for writing, and we'll be on our way. That's the end of the video.